What is up, everybody, and welcome. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at this Andre Thorburn L36S. Kind of surprising that it took this long to get this knife on the table. This knife comes to us on loan from my man Russell. He is at That's Not a Knife on Instagram. Definitely go check him out. Now, for those of you who follow the channel, you may have noticed there has not been a video for a few weeks. I do apologize. I just really haven't had knives. So if you guys have some knives that you want to send on loan, keep things moving over here on the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. You can reach out to me at tovarishworks at gmail.com or message me on Instagram, whatever works for you. I would appreciate it. And I will be headed to New York Custom Knife Show, and hopefully I come back with something pretty. So I do again apologize for the delay, but I'm pretty stoked about bringing this video to you guys because, as you know, the L36M has sort of been a quintessential part of the channel. It's been a model that I've had in my collection since I started collecting customs, and of course this knife is always a piece with a special place in my heart. And so the L36S is, of course, as the S would denote, the smaller version of the M, which is the medium. Now, believe it or not, there actually is an L36L, and it is even larger than the large. It's pretty, or larger than the medium, rather. It's pretty substantial, and there aren't a lot of those out in the world. But the S's you can find, again, slightly less common than the M's, but they're definitely out there. And, you know, my concern with small versions of knives always is like sort of, is it too small? And did the shape of the model, you know, of the handle and the blade and everything, did it make sense? Did it translate well when it was sort of shrunken down? And in some cases the answer is definitely yes, and in some cases the answer is absolutely not. I'm very pleased to say that the L36S 100% is a super sick little compact version of the M, and it is a great knife that could suit all of your daily carry needs, while of course having all of the beautiful and wonderful qualities of an Andre Thorburn. So let's go ahead and talk about three main things with this knife. One, we'll go over the aesthetics as we always do. Then we'll sort of talk about the action. I know that a lot of people like to claim that knives with small blades can't have free dropping actions or what have you. They make excuses, and this knife is an excellent example of how that's certainly not always true. So we'll look at the action, and then finally we'll do a little bit more of an in-depth size comparison with the L36M, because I know that's a knife that a lot of people have gotten to try, and so the S is certainly a smaller option. So taking a look here at the aesthetics, first we have, as is tradition, this beautiful hand rub satin blade. Now we are looking at the newer logo from Andre Thorburn. If you're curious about those differences, you can go see my previous video on, I'm actually not sure which. You'll just have to check the channel and see what the most recent Andre Thorburn video was. I think I did a little bit of a comparison between new and old and talked about the differences with the mirror flats, which are now a little bit more of a satin mirror as opposed to a full mirror, and the smaller logo that now says Andre Thorburn Custom rather than Andre Thorburn Bella Bella, South Africa. But of course you still have that same beautiful hand rub satin on the primary bevel as well as the swedge. Gorgeous hollow grind, and you will notice there's a significantly less recurve on the small compared to the medium. So if we take a look here, the medium has a pretty obvious recurve up through here. It's certainly not you know, super substantial. It's not an extreme recurve, but it is 100% definitely present. Now when you look at the small, at first glance you might say there's no recurve at all. Oh, I just poked myself there. You might say there's no recurve at all. This does look like a pretty flat section of blade, but if you do look very closely, there is a slight bend. It's very difficult to see, but it's there. But ultimately, I think you could get away with not calling this blade a recurve. It's so subtle, and so I think that's a little interesting, because people have definitely brought up to me in the past that something that they dislike about the M is the recurve blade. You know, a lot of people sharpen their own knives and things like this, and a recurve blade for those people tends to offer unnecessary complications. I personally really enjoy how the knife looks, and if I ever got this knife sharpened, I'd probably get it sharpened by Andre himself. So I'm never too worried about that. But if you are considering the S, it may be worth noting that, you know, by the second or third time that you sharpen this, that recurve is going to be gone anyway, because it's so very subtle. And so then you have a pretty normal blade shape. So that might be something to consider. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the bolsters. Of course, hand stippled by Mariki, Andre's wife. Beautiful zirconium. You can see the polished sections have some heat anodizing to them. Some purples and pinks. There we go. You can sort of see the polished sections within the stippled sections, and then colored stippling. The stipple bolsters are not for everyone, but I definitely feel like if you do enjoy them, they're really special. They really add something unique to the knife. They make Andre's knives stand out among all the other South African makers, and really all the other makers out there in general. Of course, you can get his Julian Marchal bolsters as well, which are hand engraved. I have an appreciation for all of it, but I really just like these unique designs that they do. And it makes every knife, even though he makes the same models over and over and over again, unlike other makers who, you know, might make the same sort of style of build, you know, the same carbon fiber, the same bolster material, the same sort of backspacer. They might make 3 or 4 of those over the years, just sort of naturally, not intending to necessarily remake the same thing over and over, but, you know, just as sort of over time people order similar builds and things like that. So the thing that I like about the Thorburns, by and large, you know, obviously he has ones without bolsters that are the same, but by and large, all the bolstered knives are 100% unique, and so that's definitely something that I really enjoy. Of course, we have this high polish on this carbon fiber that is slatted with blue G10 and silver strike. That's going to be some copper wire woven through there. Sorry, not silver strike, lightning strike is what I meant to say. And just you can see that beautiful high polish that Andre manages to pull off. Absolutely exquisite. Of course, if we do look down the file-worked backspacer, we will see that amazing two-tone anodizing that he's known for, along with a G10 backspacer. And I just think this is a gorgeous little knife. So the next part of this video is going to be the action. Now, of course, it's always just difficult to show you guys the action at this angle and everything like that, but what we are looking at here is an incredibly snappy detent. I think you can sort of see for yourself it has that really solid rocket out sort of hard detent that we're used to on Thorburns. But it's not so hard that you really struggle against it. You can see the flipper tab's not too substantial, and you're pretty easily able to just pull down on that flipper tab and invoke deployment. But man, it really does come out strong. It has that Thorburn thwack that his knives are known for. Perhaps even a little bit more so than some of the other small knives that I've had from him. And again, guys, this comes with the disclaimer that every single custom knife that's ever been made in history is different, and just because you buy the same model or the same maker's knives, some are going to have different actions. It is what it is. So again, I'm always just talking about the knife on the table. I'm not necessarily saying that if you run out and find yourself an L36S on the secondary market, you know, that it's going to be 100% perfect. But having said that, the action on this knife is absolutely stellar, particularly in that really solid deployment. And then when we look at the knife dropping, it's not a Grimsmo by any means, but you can see it takes very little, if any, effort to get that blade to come down on itself under its own accord. I really don't have to shake it. You know, sometimes there's this little bit of leverage that's required, but once it sort of hops over that detent and gets a little momentum in the tank, it's closing itself. So I think for such a small blade, this is still super impressive. Obviously, there's always a little bit of tweaking that can be done regarding loosening the pivot and everything like that. I made sure that this was tightened down so that there's no blade play or anything like that, and I did give it some fresh oil. So I'm feeling pretty confident that this is right about where this knife should be. And I think that it's absolutely fantastic. And I think that if anybody were to buy one of these and it has the action that this knife has, you would be 100% more than thrilled, especially considering the size, because, man, it is absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. Everything you would expect from a Thorburn and more, and I can't recommend it enough. So let's go ahead and compare it to the big guy. We did already, of course, talk about the blade and some of the differences in the shape there. You are, of course, equipped with a smaller flipper tab, as would make sense, and therefore it has fewer of the aesthetic holes, the speed holes in there. You do, of course, have similar bolster and scale shapes. Again, this knife is pretty much just a scaled down version of the M with those slight changes to the blade. Now, if we do flip the knife over, one thing that we'll notice is that the 3D clips that Andre's been using more recently, they're all the same size. It's not restructured for these smaller knives. And so while this is true for any small knife that Andre makes, and pretty much any small knife that any maker makes, if they're not sort of fully hand making the clip to every knife, in any of those cases where the clips are sort of punched out, they're all going to be similar sizes. And so what you have here is a clip that takes up more of the space of the knife. And so you can see this clip is like 90% of the length of the scale, maybe 80% if you look at the back end as well, 80% the length of the scale. Whereas this clip is more like 65% of the length of the scale, if not less. And so that does sort of matter when it's in your hand. The clip is sort of sitting higher up, and so it does push a little bit more into the meat up here under your index finger, whereas on the big knife, the clip is all the way down here in the middle of the hand, where it tends to fade away and you don't actually feel it as much because your hand sort of cradles around it. Again, just with this being a smaller knife, and any smaller knife is going to have this sort of clip feel to it. But it's just something that I thought I would bring up, that they are, of course, using the same size clip, even though it is a smaller knife. Now, of course, this knife does fit beautifully in the hand. You can see here I have about a medium glove, and there's still just a couple millimeters out here on the end of nice, comfortable grip space, so I'm able to fully grip the knife. It's not one of those little three-finger guys, sort of like the A6 Mini is. I feel like the A6 Mini is another sort of popularized, more common miniature version or small version of knives that come from Andre / A Squared, what have you. And so that knife is a little bit more of a three-finger knife, and this one's very much not. And what that means is that I think I'm going to see one of these L36Ss in my collection, because the fact that it's a full grip knife, which is something that I sort of have to have on a knife that I'm going to keep, just personal preference kind of thing. The fact that I can fully grip it, and it is a full-size knife in a very real sense, but also sort of condenses this awesome package into a smaller blade. I love everything about it. So I was really stoked to be able to bring this one to you guys. I can't believe it took so long to get an S on the table. Big thanks to Russell for sending this sucker along. At New York Custom Knife Show, I will hopefully find one for myself. That would be super exciting. I do have another knife on loan from Russell. Hopefully we will have that published next week. And again, if you guys want to reach out with any loaners, that would be super sweet. Just been dealing with a lot of stuff, and I haven't been buying a lot of knives myself. And so if we want to keep things coming across the table, give me a shout. I would appreciate it. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Of course, if you'd like to see beautiful pictures of these knives, you can follow me on Instagram at tovarishworks. You can follow Russell on Instagram at That's Not a Knife. And of course, if you want to email me for any reason whatsoever, you can again do so at tovarishworks@gmail.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.